Now, my brothers and sisters, does God have a church? Yes or no?
Yes.
You see, I want to make it clear from the verse section. And we're going to build on this week. I want to make it extremely clear.
My dear brothers and sisters, here we are going to see and go through Jeremiah David's study on should we separate from the church or should we stay in the church. So we are going to go through it. Jeremiah David is presenting here a powerful study showing us through the Bible, the spirit of prophecy, that should we separate from the church or should we stay in the church.
We did last year.
Let's go through this study. Be blessed.
That we should study more this year than last year. God is looking to organize a body that's going to finish the work. I want to be a part of it. What do you say? Now, my brothers and sisters, does God have a church? Yes or no?
Yes.
You see, I want to make it clear from the verse section. And we're going to build on this week. I want to make it extremely clear. I don't want you to misunderstand me in no way. When we come aside for a meeting such as this, to rest a while spiritually, to study the Bible, to prepare, to study, is it for the purpose of starting a new church? Yes or no? No. Never think that when you come to a meeting like this, it's for the purpose of starting a new church. If we're to get into a right meeting, this should lead us not away from the church. It should lead us back into the church with a message that can produce revival and reformation. In fact, the prophet of God says, well, someone says, don't you think that there's something wrong with the church? I say, yes. Don't you think so? But starting a new church would make it worse, not better. It would mean apostasy. Now, there's some that don't believe that. But we're going to follow what the Bible says. Look what the prophet says. In the book, Acts of the Apostles, page 9 and page 11, the prophet says, many and wonderful are the promises recorded in the scriptures regarding, what's the next two words? The what? The church. Through centuries of persecution, conflict, and darkness, God has sustained his what? Church. Not one cloud has fallen upon it that he is not prepared for. Not one opposing force has risen to counterwork his word that he has not foreseen. Has God seen the condition of the church? Yes or no? Yes. You know, it's amazing. There is a strong opposition to the message of present truth on this island. You thought all the opposition was in Parliament. Let me tell you something. There's a more opposing power that is not in the political government. There's more opposition in the church than in the political party. It says, not one opposing force has risen to counterwork his work that he has not foreseen. All has taken place as he, what's the next word? Predicted. He has not left his church forsaken, but has traced in prophetic declarations what would occur. And that which his spirit inspired the prophets to foretell has been brought about. Everything that God has said will come upon the church as Seventh Adventism has happened today. Every apostasy, every reform, every revival, every change, everything is taking place just as God has said. It says all his purposes will be fulfilled. His law is linked with his throne, and no power of evil can destroy it. Truth is inspired. Do you believe that? Yes. And guarded by God, and it will triumph over how much opposition? All opposition. He has sent forth his angels to minister to his church, and the gates of hell, you know the text. Matthew 16 says that God has set up his church not upon Peter, but upon Jesus Christ, the stone and the rock of righteousness. And it says, and the gates of hell have not been what? Able to prevail against his people. Do you believe the Bible? Yes or no? Information says that the gates of hell cannot prevail against the church. I don't care what the devil does, he cannot destroy God's church. God's church that is militant today is going to become church triumphant. That enfeebled and defective as it may appear is going to change. Information tells us, although there are evils existing not outside of the church, but what? There are those that will want us to believe that God has a pure church today. There are those that will want us to believe that God's church is triumphant today. My brothers and sisters, not yet. There must come a change first. Information says that we're in the church militant. It says there are wheat and tares in this church. It says the church in the last days is to be the light of the world that is polluted and demoralized by what? Right now in the day, someone says, yes, God's church can't be this messed up church. But the prophet says, enfeebled and defective as it may appear, that this church is the one object in which God bestows his supreme regard. And when any man touches the church, he touches the apple of the eye of Jesus. And let me tell you something very clearly. There's a lot of people that are listening to men on YouTube. They're listening to men as ministers. They're listening to men on this island and outside the island that will tell you, but listen to me, I don't care how much Bible he quotes. I don't care how much spirit of prophecy he repeats. I don't care how good he sounds and how powerful he preaches. The devil is powerful. That if a man arises and tells you that the work for the last days is to leave the church and establish a pure church right now, that man is of the devil. I want to make it plain this morning. Someone says, what do you mean? I say it's of the devil. The prophet says that he's on the wrong track. You can be sure that God is not leading him. Because of this, I tell you, when a man preaches present truth, he has no way where to lay his head. The liberal doesn't like him. The conservative doesn't like him. The offshoot, everywhere we go, everybody is in a position. Someone says, we don't like you. It's all right. They didn't like Jesus. I didn't come here because you like me. I came here to give you the truth. And right now there's a danger to the right hand and on the left. You know, there's a danger in being a Sadducee and throwing away all the truth, but there's also a danger in being a Pharisee. There's too much Phariseeism and Sadduceeism in God's church today, and none of it is Jesus. You see, present truth is different. You see, we can come to a meeting like this and say, oh yes, we believe in dress reform and health reform, and then get home and we're living more apostasy than the church out there. You see, it's easy to talk. It's easy to talk like this and not live the truth in our daily lives. I'm going to tell you something, brothers and sisters. When you come to a meeting like this, it's easy to put on a suit and look like you're spiritual. And then at home, you're practicing secret sin. Men standing up loud, preaching in this meeting here from the back and from around. But let me tell you something. Jesus knows our heart. What we need is a revival and a reformation. Illustration says, although there are evils existing in the church in these last days is to be the light of the world that is polluted and demoralized by sin. The church, enfeebled and defective, needing to be not patted on the back, not comforted. It needs to be what? Reproved, warned, counseled. It is the only object upon earth upon which Christ bestows his supreme regard. The world is a workshop in which, through the cooperation of human and divine agencies, Jesus is making experiments by his grace and divine mercy upon human hearts. I want him to experiment upon my heart. What do you say? The God can take a sinner and make him look like a saint. The prophet says the church is God's appointed agency for the salvation of men. It was, what's the next word? Does God have an organized church? Yes or no? It was organized for service, and its mission is to carry the gospel to how much of the world? From the beginning. It has been God's plan that through his church shall be reflected to the world his fullness and sufficiency. The members of the church, those whom he has called out of darkness into his marvelous light, are to show forth his glory. The church is the repository of the riches of the grace of Christ, and through the church will eventually be made manifest even to the principalities and powers and heavenly places, the final and full display of the love of God. God is going to raise up his church to finish the work. My brothers and sisters, God will use this church, and the devil, this is the reason why he hates this church. This is the reason why he wants to break it up into independent atoms. This is the reason why he's attacking it and he's wroth with it, because he knows that this church is a sleeping giant. And he's afraid that should this church wake up, he's in trouble. And I'm telling you something, he's right. Because when this church wakes up, it is going to cause the kingdom of the devil to fall, and it's going to be defeated by the power of Jesus Christ. My brothers and sisters, but inspiration says, having said that, while this is God's church, don't you think that just because it's God's church that everything that is in it is right. Believing that this is the church does not mean compromise. Does not mean lowered standards. It does not mean that you can go and do what you want. To believe that this is the church means that what God has given us, you're not going to let the devil push you away, but you're going to stand in defense of the faith that was once delivered to the saints. Amen. Now, my brothers and sisters, the prophet says, God will arouse his people if other means what? Now, you know what God's original intention was? God's original intention was to send a straight testimony through his church. that from every pulpit that the trumpet was to give a certain sound. That every minister and member was to hear the straight truth, but the devil has prevented the truth from reaching the churches. This is why we're not in the church, not because we're against the church, but because the devil has built up walls around the church. This is why we're at this academy right now, and I believe that this is an avenue to get the truth into the church before it is too late. Now, my brothers and sisters, you must understand something. God intended that way, but it says that means has failed. The devil has destroyed, and the majority of the ministry are not preaching this truth. This says, if other means fail, that was the mean. It says God will do what? He will allow heresies will come in among them, which will do what? Sift them, separating the chaff from the wheat.
So I would like to hear your comment, your stand in the comment section. Please, can you share your comment? Can you comment something there in the comment section and share your stand on this topic? That should we separate from the church or should we stay in the church? Before we close, I would like also to add one verse and the quotation in the book Matthew chapter 13, verse 28 up to 30. It says, let both wheat and tares grow together until the harvest. If you read the parable of wheat and tares, we see here that separation of faithful from the unfaithful, separation of unfaithful from the faithful is done by angels, not human beings. It is done by the angels. So premature separation causes harm. I would like also to share a quotation in the book Testimony for the Church volume Testimonies to Ministers, page 61 and 62. It says, we are not to think that the chosen one of God who are trying to walk in the light of we are not to think that the chosen ones of God who are trying to walk in the light are Babylon. The fallen denomination churches at Babylon has been fostering poisonous doctrines, the way of error. So Ellen White here says that we should not call the church of God Babylon. We should not call the church of God Babylon. And also in the book Selected Messages, book 2, page 380, it says, the church may appear as about to fall, but it does not fall. It remains, while the sinners in Zion will be sifted out. The chaff separated from the precious wheat. The chaff separated from the precious wheat. So here again, Lord says that the church may appear as about to fall, but it will not fall. But it will not fall. It will not fall. And also another quotation. In Testimonies for the Church, volume 6, page 371. It says, the Lord does not work to bring many souls into the truth, because of the church members who have never been converted, and those who are also converted but are backsliding. And the last quotation that I will share on that topic is it is the book called Selected Messages, book 12, page 390 and 391. It says, there is to be no new organization. There is to be no new organization. We are not to set up another denominational organization. We are not to set up another denominational organization. The Lord has declared that the history of the past shall be rehearsed as we enter upon the closing ones. The Lord has declared that the history of the past shall be rehearsed as we enter upon the closing ones. Can you remember the history of Israel? Although they were so rebellious, Moses did not separate from them, but he pleaded that God may have mercy on them. Moses did not separate or do a separation of the faithful and the unfaithful. But he pleaded for them. He pleaded that God may have mercy on them. So Ellen White here says that the history of the past will be repeated. So on my stand, according to the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, we should not separate from the church. But we should help the church. We should help those brothers and sisters that are so weak, that are asleep. We should awaken them. Please, may you share your standpoint on this topic in the comment section. Be blessed.